So Google McDougal, this is a big earnings for them because this is supposed to be seen as kind of like a trough time, 1Q, 2Q, kind of seen as trough times for Google's business model. And the best thing you could hope is that you're starting to see some sort of strength, and that strength becomes a lot more as we go into the back half this year. And it looks like everything is setting up absolutely perfectly here, okay? So Google search was up about $2 billion more in revenue this year versus last year. YouTube ads is now growing again. Holy smokers, that's no dang jokers. Thanks goodness, okay? Because YouTube ads was actually going negative, which was shocking. Like, that was something you could never even conceive of in the past. So the fact that we're getting back to some year-over-year growth here is epic, okay? Google Network was down for the quarter, so that's one of the few red spots for these Google earnings, okay? Google advertising in general was up about $2 billion roughly year over year. Google services, you add up those numbers, I mean, we're talking about $3.5 to almost $4 billion up there when it comes to kind of Google services total. If we look at Google Cloud, that grew very nicely, up almost $2 billion, and that's off a very small number there. So that you're talking about a very big percentage base move up. Total revenues on a year-over-year basis were up about $5 billion. That is exactly what you want to see for Google, okay? Now, number of employees, I saw this at first and I was like, that's strange. Why is number of employees up? Doesn't make sense. Like, Google's supposed to be cutting employees. And look at this, okay? The substantial majority of the employees affected by the reduction of our workforce are no longer included in our headcount as of June 30th, 2023. We expect the remaining employees affected will no longer be reflected in our headcount at the end of 2023. Subject to local law and whatnot, right? Requirements. So that's intriguing. So if anything, you might actually see this number reflect a little lower here over this next few quarters, okay? Now, this matters just as substantially, if not more, for Google, okay, and for many of these stocks. You had revenue up about $5 billion roughly year over year, but net income grew very nicely. Net income grew about $2.3 billion there, right? Now, keep in mind, next quarter and the following quarter should be even much more impressive in terms of that net income growth, as all these like employee costs and the employee firing, or whatever we want to call it, employee reductions, all those sorts of things. There's a lot of one-time costs that go along with that. You got to kind of keep people on payroll while you're still trying to push them out the door. So nonetheless, the net income growth should be much more impressive over this next couple quarters. But to do $2.3 billion up year over year, that's extremely impressive, right? As far as EPS came in at $1.45, right? Now, we see Google stock moving up very big. I've seen it after hours up anywhere between about 5% and 7% or so. So Google stock should have a very good day tomorrow. And this matters significantly for even a stock like Meta. Okay, Meta's moving up after hours as well. Don't be surprised if Meta crosses 300 before even earnings come out tomorrow, which, if you don't know, Meta is reporting earnings after the bell tomorrow, right? That's big dog. This is going to be a huge earnings period for Meta. We need to see a very similar phenomenon that we just saw in Google, where you're seeing a troughing in the business, you're seeing a revenue start to grow again very nicely year over year, you're starting to see that net income come together, and then we need to hear that they're very confident for the back half of this year, and that the numbers we're going to see top line and bottom line are going to be much more impressive in the back half of this year, okay? If that plays out the way I think it's going to play out, it's going to mean very good things for Meta. Now, Snap crashed after hours. This used to be a stock that actually would pull down stocks like Google, McDougal, and Meta. And thank goodness the market is finally intelligent enough to realize Snapchat should not be put into the same category as Google and Meta, okay? Stocks like Snap and Twitter literally, these companies used to be put in the same category, and you can't put these companies in the same category. They're a joke compared to companies like Meta and Google. I mean, you're talking about the bigs of the bigs. Now, Chipotle, they're reporting on Wednesday after the bell also. Now, this is one of the hottest stocks in the stock market the past 5 years. Find me more stocks that have this sort of 5-year gain. It's going to be very hard to do. There's some of them out there, and some of them I do own. Elf on a Shelf and Tesla and some of those, right? But I'm telling you, to find this sort of gain on a 5-year basis is tough. 384% in the past 5 flip and flapjacking years? Is this NVIDIA? Is this AMD? Like, what are we talking about here? This is insane, right? And, I mean, Chipotle's just one of those stocks I always look at and I'm just like, it's got to go down. It's got to go down at some point. Like, they sell flipping flapjack and burritos. Are you kidding me? And we're pushing a $60 billion market cap on this company at this sort of PE? I mean, my gosh. But Chipotle, they just come in and they report these numbers, and you're just like, how did they do it? How did they do it? So we'll see what happens with Chipotle, but I will be keeping an eye on Chipotle. Now, Mattel. Okay. All right. You told me there's one stock I have to buy call options on for the next 6 months. Let's say they expire in January of 2024. Okay, 6 month out options. If you forced me right now, Mattel. So Mattel is a kind of pretty intriguing story going on right now. Okay, I don't know if you guys know, but this Barbie movie is absolutely tearing it up at the movie theaters. They just did $155 million. Nonetheless, folks, I think a lot of Barbie dolls are going to be sold the next several years, to be honest. I think retailers are going to be putting in insane orders, and I think Mattel has a potential to hit all-time highs in terms of their stock over the next, I'd say, 6 to 9 months or so. The amount of hype that I think is going to build in Mattel stock is going to be massive. I wouldn't be surprised if on Monday the stock's even up big, huge. We'll see what happens, but I wouldn't be surprised at all. But this is blowing away expectations, this Barbie movie, in terms of the numbers it's putting up. And I'm just telling you, like, it's going to add up to a whole lot of Barbie sales, okay? So we'll see. But all I'm saying is that one looks pretty darn intriguing from at least a short term, even over the next, I'd say, 12 to 24 months. It's pretty intriguing. At some point in time, the Barbie hype will calm down a little bit. But for right now, it is full go. And actually, the stock hasn't really responded the way you thought it would respond. I mean, it's had this little run up here this year from like 17 to 21. That's nothing. That's nothing. That's all I'm going to say about that. That's nothing. We'll see. Now, Thursday, you got Mickey D's. Overvalued. Overvalued. McDonald's reporting. My favorite overvalued stock. We'll see what happens there. You got Southwest Airlines reporting, which I think is intriguing, especially if you want to know how the domestic airline market is right now, and if they're starting to see any weakness at all, or is things still looking super strong. We know the airline's been strong for at least a year now at this point in time on the domestic side, right? MasterCard's reporting. That gets put in the category of like Amex, of Discover, of Visa, that whole category. So we'll see what happens there. Also keep an eye on Enphase. It's just a real, just a lot of people are always excited about Enphase. They're having a lot more trouble with kind of their business model. Then you go Friday, you got, big oil reporting. You got Exxon and you got Chevron. So I'm actually really interested to see, with obviously energy prices being in a weakened place versus last year, how much does that really hit ExxonMobil? How much does that really hit Chevron? So usually I don't even care about ExxonMobil earnings or Chevron, but I'm going to take a peek at both of them because I'm really intrigued on, what energy prices declined, over this past year. What does that mean for their business models? I'm really intrigued with that.